What it is, what is up, welcome back to my channel. It's a wrap, aka Yudi here. I know, it's been 2 months, a month since I last came out with a video, and I have 2 months worth of wrap ups to catch up on, so I'm not going to waste any time. I'm just going to get right into it. Okay, I read 9 books between February and March. One was an audiobook, one was an ebook. So I'm going to start off with those two first. So first we have my one audiobook that I listened to this month by Belvin. Belvin is one of my favorite Black indie romance authors. This story is Mercy. It's part of the Prism series. Mercy is book 1 in the series, and this story follows Jazz and Azra. I think it's Azra. Azra, her family has like a construction company, and she's pretty much taking over the business. But she also loves to dance. And then Jazz is recently out of jail. Not recent. I think he's been out of jail for like a year or 2 years. And he comes from a family that has money, but for some reason he doesn't want anything to do with it. And also he went to jail for selling firearms. He is now working as a construction worker, and Azra and Jazz kind of meet through that. And Azra doesn't know. Azra just thinks that he is a recently released incarcerated person that's trying to get back on his feet. So pretty much he's keeping the secret from her. But yeah, so that is Mercy. I'm not gonna lie. Out of all the Belvin books, I've read 3. I'm lying. I've read 4 series. This might be not my most favorite. The Muted Love series is one of my favorites. Her first series that she came out with, I really like that one. But anyways, I don't know if I'm going to listen to the rest of this series, but yeah, it's not saying that's bad. Like, I don't think any of Belvin is really good at like character development, and she just really, the characters be round. They be round, and I be into it. She really builds like these relationships, and it doesn't feel like they just kind of like look at each other and they love each other. It's kind of like this really good growth, and they really get to know each other. I just really enjoy her stories. I'm on the fence about this one, but the next book that I read was Needful Noor by Takerra, and I read this one immediately after The Last Stop of Innocence. And that one I listened to the audiobook. Highly recommend the audiobook. The audiobook was excellent. And I think the audiobook for Noor just came out, or it came out last month. I think it came out last month. I think I'm going to actually go and listen to the audiobook. But yeah, immediately after listening to the audiobook, I went and read Needful Noor. And baby, Needful Noor, I don't know how Takerra does it, but I was hooked. It's 2 parts, but like you can also get the full book, which is like 800 and something pages. And Needful Noor follows this character named Noor, who has had a very tumultuous, very traumatic childhood. Her mother was very abusive, would like starve her, and because of that, she has a very deep complex with her body. But anyway, she moves from California to New Jersey to follow this man who is able to provide her shelter. She's not really like in love with this man or anything like that. And quite frankly, he's abusive. But yeah, but also to just start over in a new city on the East Coast. So yes, she moves to New Jersey, and her friend ends up hooking her up with this caretaking nanny job with this affluent family that sells cannabis. She's pretty much assisting the wife who's had this really bad accident, and she just needs care. And in this story, she ends up getting tangled in an entanglement or having an attraction with the husband. It's very messy. It's very messy. There's a lot to be said about Noor's character and the wife and how they're characterized, how their relationship with the husband, like how he sees Noor versus how he sees his wife. And it's also interesting how Noor, how she's able to make these men feel, I don't want to say like a worthiness, but how she's able to feed into like their egos to in order to get what she needs. The way, like, I'm not gonna lie, I don't really care for Noor. I don't really care for Noor, but the way Takerra Allen kind of like writes her, I understand. Like, you would think that Noor, the way that these men look at Noor is that she's like innocent, but like Noor is very much aware of what she's doing in order to get by. Yeah, it's just interesting. I have so much commentary. I also don't want to spoil it. I think you should read it. Yeah, I think I'm officially a Takerra Allen fan. And I'm probably going to end up reading her other works. Needful Noor, that was definitely like a read that I really enjoyed in the past 2 months. Highly recommend. Moving on to my physical TBR, You're Breaking My Heart by Olugbemisola. And this one was the story following Harriet, who just lost her brother, and she's deep in the grieving process of trying to navigate the loss of her brother and feeling like it's her fault. And in that, it also, this is also speculative fiction, but it plays with like fantasy and like it's surreal, all while talking about her navigating the relationship with her family and friends and school, while also grieving a very big loss in her life at a young age. This is my first time reading speculative fiction, and I think the way that the author, again, you can see my whole review, I think the way that the author navigated grief through a youthful eye was just so, I think, beautiful. I think, yeah, beautiful is the best word I can think of. I really enjoyed it in that aspect. So yes, one that you should check out if you haven't. Okay, the next book that I read this one in February, is Sula by Toni Morrison. I finally got this classic off my list. I finally understand why everybody is all like, girl, read Sula. Honestly, between so if you don't know what Sula is about, it's about these two girls, Sula and Nell. They're childhood friends, and Nell grows up, but she kind of does everything, quote unquote, I guess, right? Like, she gets married, she has kids, and then we have Sula, and Sula is seen as this, is pariah the right word? But she disappears, she goes off to college, she sees the world, she doesn't get married, she doesn't have kids, sleeps with everybody's man. Like, she's just seen as just not an admirable person. But in the book, Sula and Nell end up, their friendship ends up being fractured by an incident, and it never really kind of comes back after that. But in that incident, we kind of look at Sula, and then we look at Nell, and Nell's all like, Sula, like, you were, like, what you did was wrong, you're not a good person. And Nell is kind of grieving and never really, I guess, comes back from that incident that happens. But in the book, I think the biggest thing, that the greatest loss that Nell and Sula have, is the loss of their friendship, and that their relationship was like the greatest relationship within this book. Like, the greatest love that they had was their friendship, which I thought was so beautiful. And man, I'm gonna have to read another Toni Morrison book. I said before that I read Beloved, and that is a lie. I read Song of Solomon, and I'm gonna have to reread it. But one thing I do remember from Song of Solomon is that also The men in this book were not admirable. The men in Song of Solomon also were not that admirable. So yeah, but you know what? When I was reading the book, I was all like, I'm a Sula. When Sula was like, girl, like my lonely is mine, that was it. My lonely is mine. When she read Nell, when she was all like, hey, like I might be lonely, but like my lonely is me. Like my lonely is not because somebody is not there. Like I feel completely assured that like that in my solitude, and that's like that was a read. Because when Nell, look, I don't want to give it away. But when Sula read Nell, and I said, wow, I still don't agree. like Sula, that was effed up what you did. But girl, like you kind of making me on your side. And Sula, I feel like I'm you. Like I wouldn't do that. But if we're on the spectrum of am I Nell or am I Sula? Like Sula is on the extreme. Sula's on the extreme of like, baby, I manifest my own destiny type of situation. Like my lonely is mine. Like I don't need anybody else. I'm definitely more Sula than I am a Nell. Cause baby, I don't want to give away the incident. But when the incident happens and the way that Nell reacts, I'm just all like, girl, you still got you. And that's what Sula was saying. You still got you. Don't let anybody upend you like this. You still got you. Now I know why people don't really go into depths of this book. Because you just have to read it. This book just really hit. It sat with me. For a week. It's still sitting with me now that I'm bringing it back up. So yes, 5 out of 5. A favorite. I'm Toni Morrison. She that girl. I finally finished Black Cake by Charmaine Wilkerson. I have a video talking about the books that I DNF'd. They're just books that I kind of fell off from reading, but I still have intentions to finish. And Black Cake was one of them. So I actually haven't even finished the series. So, but I started the series and I actually stopped, more or less. I stopped in the series where I stopped in the book because the series is a little bit out of order from the book. But I went and I finished the book. And I still kind of feel the same. It's definitely like a slow paced book. And if I had to give it a rating, it would definitely be like a 3.5. It wasn't a bad read. It just didn't really like stick with me. I was able to push through and finish it. There's some things, I'm not going to finish the series. There's some things in the series that I kind of appreciate that they put in there. I'm not going to do a comparison video, but for the most part, the series sticks with the book. It's not too far off. It is interesting though that in the series, they make like some explicit comments about like people's skin tones, like the lawyer Mitch. Like in the series, Mitch is dark skinned, but in the book, Mitch makes it like, it's a very adamant point that Mitch is not dark skinned, like Mitch is light skinned. But yeah, I finally finished Black Cake. Okay, the next book I have is Ace of Spades. Will it focus? Okay, Ace of Spades by Faridah Àbíké-Íyímídé. But yeah, this one I actually started reading in January and I finished in like the beginning of March. But yeah, if you don't know what Ace of Spades is about, it's a young adult thriller. It is these two students, Chamaka and Devon, and they're the only like two black students in this private school. Yeah, in this private school. And think Gossip Girl, these messages start going out revealing the secrets of both of these students, and they just can't figure out who is sending out these messages and like revealing like the deepest, darkest secrets in their lives. So yeah, this one, baby, I sped through it. I did speed through it. And I love what it ended up being, like who it ended up beating. I love that. I love the social commentary that was expounded from this book. I actually went to a book signing for her new book, Where Sleeping Girls Lie, and I got a copy of it. Very excited to read that. Super, super excited. And it was such a good event. Shout out to the other DMV bookstagrammers and booktubers. I saw Malcolm Hughes. Shout out to Malcolm Hughes. Shout out to their channel. It was very nice seeing each other in person. But yes, it was a very fun event. It was very fun connecting with everyone. It was a really good chat. And you'll soon see Where Sleeping Girls Lies on my channel. So yes, good read, just all good things to say. The next book I read is Yellow Wife by Sadeqa Johnson. I don't know if I brought this up on my channel either. I read House of Eve, and then in February I also went to a book event, another book signing, where Sadeqa Johnson was having a book chat with, I'll put the podcast here because the name is slipping me. They had a book event where they were speaking with Sadeqa Johnson, and Sadeqa Johnson is, wow, so lovely. And I loved her notes on like writing. Someone who also writes, like, I loved her advice just in her thought process when she writes, especially because she writes such good historical fiction, which again brings me back to Yellow Wife, because especially like historical fiction with where it's like a slave narrative, I'm usually not that, I'm on the fence. But Yellow Wife follows Phoebe. She's from Virginia and she lives on this plantation where she's also in a relationship with the boy that deals with horses. Anyway, they end up in a situation where ultimately they're trying to escape. They're trying to leave, even though she had already had the promise with the master of the plantation that by 18 that she was going to go to this school in Philly and be a free slave. That doesn't happen. She ends up being sent to a prison in Richmond where she ends up involved with like the master of the prison. But man, what makes Sadeqa Johnson's historical fiction, especially when it's Black women, so good is that the agency, it's the knowing and like, no, we're not just lying down and being essayed, or like, it's these conscious decisions, these difficult decisions that Black women in slavery had to make in order to get through the day to day, in order to like ensure like for their children that they'll be all right, for themselves that they'll be all right. And it's that agency in making those difficult decisions that's just like, it's heavy, but so good. Sadeqa, baby girl, she don't miss. Another one, another 5 out of 5. And this was so perfect. I read this in March and it was just so perfect to read in March. Okay. Another one that was like An American Marriage. Okay. I'm just gonna buy Tayari Jones. I waited forever I've had this book for a minute. I waited forever to read it. Finally read it. Baby, because why? I'm not gonna lie, I was not on Celestial's side at all. I was like, Celestial, I get it, but don't do it. Don't do it. Just like he been through it all. Just don't do this one. Like the messy, the messiness of it all. But man, Celestial. The only person that had sense was Roy's stepdad. I'm sorry, that's the only person in the book that had sense to me. I'm gonna have to read Silver Sparrow. I'm gonna get back to you all. I did enjoy American Marriage. I can't believe I waited this long to read it. I still can't believe I waited this long to read it, because what I read was not what I was anticipating. So yeah, there's that on that. Okay, the last book, another one has a lot of hype, The Heaven and Earth Grocery Store by James McBride. And this one, when I did my TBR, I'm not very sure I gave a very good summary of this book. And I'm not sure if I can still give a very good summary of this book. So this really follows a community of Black and Jewish people in Pennsylvania. And the book starts off with the town is like, it's the 1970s. The town is kind of like not what it was during like the duration of the period that we read of this book. And there's this body that's found in as they're doing construction to build like housing developments in this town. And as they're trying to figure out who this body belongs to, a storm comes through the town and the body disappears. And then from there, we get into the story of this town during the Cold War. And it follows multiple perspectives. It follows multiple characters. And I can't even say what the main story is because it's multiple, it goes through different phases. I think all in all, the story follows this community and the solidarity between the group, the intermingling, the solidarity, the shared struggle or challenges of navigating America. This was actually a hefty one. I didn't think I was going to finish it. This is actually a big one to process because when I read it, have you ever read a book and closed the book and you're just all like, I say this sometimes in my reviews, like, what was I supposed to get from this? It's a loaded book. And I would really have to sit with this one. It's not one that you just read and you instantly get the point that the author was trying to make, at least for me. Yeah, I need to sit with this one a little bit more, but I have mixed feelings about this one. That was the last book. Wow, I'm surprised that I talked about these so fast. That's the last book on this list. Overall, I had a good reading month. I think this month there's some new releases that I'm reading, and I also have some nonfiction books that I'm reading. But let me know what you guys read for Black History Month. Is it Women's History? I would love to hear your thoughts if you read any of these books and what you all think. And also some recommendations of what you think I should be reading next. But again, we'll carry on our conversation in the comments. And until the next time, guys, deuces.